Oh yeah, we already did an hour of pre-show grab ass, so we don't need to grab as much ass this time around. It feels like it's been so long. It feels
we
like
can grab slightly less ass than normal.
Yes, maybe a little pinch. Maybe just goose it a little bit. Just. Whoop, whoop. I don't think the sound effect was necessary, and that makes it so much more uncomfortable.
You're telling me.
Autobots, transform and roll out!
Hey, welcome back for another thrilling episode of Two Mikes, Two Furious Animated Transformers, where you are Mike and we are Mike, and we're talking about Transformers Animated one episode at a time from two different points of view. My name is Mike Seibert, and I have never watched Transformers Animated before this project. And joining me, as always, my Spark Soul brother, a serial rewatcher of Transformers Animated, it's Michael Andrews.
Hello. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Glad to be back in the saddle. I'm excited for this episode specifically. Sorry, I'm going to jump right in a little bit because I'm really excited to do this episode with you. I was excited to do the Soundwave one, but this one's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, and picking up kind of more or less thematically where we left off in that episode, I had talked about this sense of being kind of like getting towards like the top of the roller coaster, where it's like it's been build up and build up and build up. This, I feel like, is the episode that I've been waiting for. You know, it's like, I mean, again, I love the Soundwave episodes and I love the individual character-focused episode, and I feel like that every character has been well established and very well served, and I have a really good feeling of the story that we're building and the characters that are in it and the elaborate tapestry that the folks that have been building for us. Here's where it really kind of finally starts paying off. I feel like this episode is kind of like we're at just about the crest of the roller coaster, where it's like you could feel yourself curling over the top to where you can see like almost like the entire panoramic horizon of the wherever you're enjoying this roller coaster is at. And it's getting to where like maybe like you're in the middle car and like some of the other folks have already started to go down, but you're still kind of like in the middle there. You don't quite know what the drop is going to look like yet, but
they're screaming, you aren't.
Yes, exactly. That's how this feels, because this episode rocks, and it gives me a lot of what I've been looking for, in that we have Decepticons on Earth. We have fights. We've got some great character beats. This is a jam-packed episode, and I'm really excited to dive right into it. Of course, we are talking about Transformers Animated Season 1, Episode number 11, Lost and Found. And this one is Lost and Found, as opposed to Sound and Fury was Sound ampersand Fury. I think I don't know why I'm even calling it out. I don't even know why I noticed it, but maybe because I watched them in close succession or something. I don't know, but like, you know, and it's interesting that we have two back-to-back episodes that are I'm not a writer. What do you call it when it's like two words that are like separated by like an and? So you have like Sound and Fury, Lost and Found. You know, it's just weird pattern, I guess.
Yeah, I'll ask a writer if I talk to one.
If only I knew one. There may be one in this very room. Right. But no, it's Lost and Found, episode 11, airing on March 1st, 2008, written by Rich Fogel. And jumping right into it, I didn't realize that this episode is just basically Transformers Dark of the Moon.
Oh my God, that's the first thing I wrote down was Dark of the Moon.
It's literally the first thing on my notes, Dark of the Moon.
Yeah, same. Right, it opens with mysterious activity on the moon. It's, you know, the ship crash, even that like symbolism of the ship crashed into the moon like that, and them emerging from the crater, like that's all there. 5 years later or whatever, when Dark of the Moon comes out, it's like that's
right.
There.
Yeah, unreal. I mean, and it's interesting how prescient Transformers Animated continues to be for what we would eventually see in the live action movies. And I wonder, and I've posited this before because this is like my first time through. So it's like now I could watch it and say, oh, hey, it's Dark of the Moon. But I wonder how many folks were watching Dark of the Moon. It's like, this is just Lost and Found.
Right. Wouldn't that be great? Some guy in the theater, this is just season 1, episode 11 of Transformers Animated 2007.
Oh man, and how disappointed would it be? It's like if you're watching Dark of the Moon in the theater and you're expecting Blitzwing and Lugnut to come out and they just don't.
Seriously, yeah. But yeah, to that point, now that we've kind of let the cat out of the bag of Lugnut and Blitzwing, we've kind of rolled over it a little bit. It's very easy to, but like you were saying with the roller coaster metaphor, it's been Decepticon. Like they ramp it up. In my head, it doesn't ramp up that fast, but now watching it actually again and noticing, oh yeah, we have 3 jam-packed Decepticon episodes where we're getting the gang together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we've seen Decepticons before. We saw Starscream. We've met Black Arachnia. And in the previous episode, we met Soundwave, or saw Soundwave being born into the Decepticon cause. I guess he's a new Decepticon, technically. And of course, the ongoing threat of Megatron. But it's neat to see kind of like height of their powers, fully empowered Decepticons. I like this duo, this teaming of Lugnut and Blitzwing specifically. I think I like how their personalities clash off each other. And I mean that plurality literally, because obviously you have Blitzwing with his multiple personalities here. But I love this this discussion that they're having. It's like, you had said way back at the beginning of the show when we were first meeting the Decepticons in Transform and Roll Out ! It's like, these guys have been around each other for a long time and they're really kind of sick of each other. And you really kind of see that here, like almost immediately with this bickering, but it also gives you a lot of information. It gives you like a lot of info dumpy stuff. It's just like, oh man, here's Megatron's ship. Oh man, we lost track of the signal. Oh man, we haven't heard anything since we lost contact with Lockdown. And Lugnut just hauls off like right off the bat, saying like,
do not mention that worthless bounty hunting scrap heap. He is a disgrace to the glorious name of Decepticon.
It's almost like Blitzwing had called Lockdown Martha or something. He's like, Lockdown, why would you say that name?
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I was going to say, the writer of this episode, Rich Fogel, who also did the Prometheus Black episode.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this guy must be a podcaster, right? Because he's doing the dive right in. This is a very unique intro to the show where we're just getting to the characters right away. We're just getting to the what's happened. I mean, think about it. Most of the episodes we see are, it starts with Sari, it starts with Bulkhead, it starts with Ratchet, it starts with the Autobots at the very least. And this is jumping right into, 2 Decepticons that we've been waiting to see, and boom, there they are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I wrote in my notes, this argument with Blitzwing and Lugnut is awesome, and I'm all like, finally some Decepticons, 2 exclamation points.
Yeah.
So I really like that we're re-establishing the Decepticon threat. And we had talked about previously that it would probably be interesting for our audience to go back and reevaluate some of my takes early on. And when we first met Lugnut, because he only has like a couple lines, I kind of made some assumptions that I don't know are entirely accurate now that I've kind of spent a little more time with him. I thought that he's, kind of dim-witted and slow, maybe like a Decepticon version of Bulkhead, perhaps. And
Right.
and there is some of that, and we'll certainly get into that later, because you get a Titanic clash of Titans, which is really, really cool. There's some good stuff coming, but I remember remarking specifically about speculating that Lugnut has a limited vocabulary because of the confidence in his cadence, where he's like, hey, don't talk shit about Megatron. Megatron is wise, Megatron is bold, and Megatron will, lead the Decepticons to, greatness again, or something like that. And it feels like that's kind of like the extent of what he says. And there is some of that here, but as the episode unfolds, he does have more to say, but also it's still that. Like, I love this this exchange where Blitzwing is just kind of like, you know what, we don't even know if Megatron is alive, and Lugnut is just not having that, like, at all. It's like he feels it, he knows it, and he's like, I know two things.
The Decepticons will rule Cybertron, and Megatron will rule the Decepticons.
I just thought, like, that tells you everything you need to know about Lugnut.
Yeah, really, really nice tight writing there. And in this exchange too, if we're, I was all ready to go into my voices diatribe, but it's two voices we've already heard. We know Bumper Robinson does Blitzwing, which is still pretty mind blowing. It's that he can switch to that at all. And then I found out that David Kaye did Lugnut. I didn't know that. Pulling triple duty now, I think, or at least triple duty. So it does kind of make sense, because the voice is a little bit Grimlock-esque. So I can see that, but yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. I was all excited to look up who this voice actor was, and it's old David Kaye. Yeah, or young David Kaye, I guess, at the
time. who plays a young Optimus.
Right.
It's actually young Optimus. See, it all kind of works out. It all kind of works out.
Time is bullshit.
Exactly. But I also, like, we had talked about that this is basically like a send up of Dark of the Moon, but it also kind of in a way touches on Transformers 2007 in a way, where, like, Lugnut steps on the rover and he's got, like, he's looking at it like it's like it's dog shit on his shoe. And I just remember, like, in the promotional lead up to Transformers 2007, remember they had like that it's like the Mars rover, and like that was the entirety of the first teaser trailer, and all you see is like a shadow.
It's like a protoform, or like a like the the sort of space junk, if you will, the space garbage look. Robot silhouette.
And so I thought it was kind of like a clever callback, not callback, that it kind of sort of ends up paying off here with, I mean, granted, it's the moon and not Mars, but like retroactively, I could see, oh, well, that's probably just Lugnut stepping on it.
Yeah.
that kind of
I
thing.
think that definitely has to be related, especially with how close this show is tied to the movie and that sort of marketing and all that. I can see that being a direct relation to that trailer, that teaser, I guess.
So we leave the Dark of the Moon and we proceed to Earth, where we open on Ratchet doing one of his favorite activities, taking a stasis nap.
Who doesn't love a good stasis nap? That sounds pretty good. You know what's funny, though? But before we move on from that, the stasis nap, to me, that's a very funny concept, because stasis is also used as like death or coma terminology, especially in Beast Wars. So for Ratchet taking a stasis nap, that's just being like, he's really snoozing at that point, right? Like, he's got one foot in the grave napping is basically what he's saying.
He's so tired, he put himself into a coma.
Yeah, right.
Which kind of sounds delightful from a certain point of view, too.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
It's like, sorry, can't help you, coma. He slipped into a coma.
But yeah, it's a very funny little opening here, and Sari runs up. I thought it was a very, like, Dennis the Menace and Mr. Wilson kind of relationship, right? Like he's just like, go away, I'm trying to take a nap. And she's like all excited and wants to do stuff. Even that reference is for us old people. I don't know if anyone gets a Dennis the Menace reference in this day and age, but that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, totally.
But she's playing street hockey with the Autobots, and here's a reference that's still kind of old, but maybe more people will get. She makes a Wayne's World reference, which I was so excited because she says "game on" when they go back to play hockey, and that's a classic moment from Wayne's World when they're playing street hockey in that street.
Jay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
Game on!
Yeah, so she rouses Ratchet from his stasis nap by smacking this floor hockey ball into the side, and he's like,
Hey, watch the fender!
She says something about like the game, but he's like, I'm not a fan of these childish games, and just really cranking up the Mr. Wilson here. He is just not having any of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeesh, what a grouch.
The game continues, and you get to see yet another use of Bumblebee's Heelys. He's just zipping around on those, which I think is pretty neat. But she's playing this street hockey with Prowl, Bumblebee, and Bulkhead. So it seems that perhaps time has passed, or maybe like because kind of where things were left is like still friends, but like you had said in our episode about Sound and Fury, is that like it's tenuous and it's still kind of strained. There's still kind of a little bit of a strain there, but it is nice to see Bulkhead being part of this hockey game.
Yeah, things are mending. Maybe they're not back to what we need it to be, but either way, it sort of brought all the Autobots together. Like, I don't think we would have got this shot of, them all hanging out playing a game in the past. But maybe that's a product of, now Sari and Bulkhead aren't in their own little world. So we cut to Blitzwing and Lugnut touching down on Earth. We get a little bit more of them. We've tracked that Lugnut is a big Megatron fan. He's stage 5 clinger of Megatron. And then the Autobots roll out and they leave Sari behind because it's too dangerous to go look into this. I think this scene is really cool how it was drawn. When the Autobots are actually like leaving Sari, there's like this, she's swept up in the wind and it's almost slow motion, but it's just sort of this sad moment of them getting left behind. It's incredibly epic, right? They're all rolling past, they're just leaving her in the dust. And this is a really interesting scene because like this is them saying, we don't want human involvement. This is almost them saying what the fans have been saying. It's too dangerous for a human. You shouldn't be here. So I thought that was really interesting.
It's like this is our work to do. This doesn't concern you. Almost kind of like somewhat of a condescending way, but also still in the interest of protecting Sari. Now you had mentioned a moment ago about the animation style, and I found the animation style here to be very different from a lot of the other episodes. It's like the character models are the same, but the dynamic action feels very different. And there was there was this sequence where it was still during the hockey game, and it's when Ratchet is really giving Sari the business about using her key again.
Very important.
So what happens is like, she goes to shoot a goal and like basically the goalie robot has been disabled using the key, but basically like, so Ratchet is kind of giving her the business, but like.
Sorry, how many times do I have to tell you? That key is not a toy. I said knock it off.
It was interesting to see the amount of movement in his face. It's very fluid, and his eyes like squint and open and move, and it's very emotive. He's very angry, but like in the other episodes, you see like eyes pop out or something like that, but like it kind of reminded me a little bit of when you see Galvatron at the end of Transformers the movie, when he's strangling Hot Rod right before he unleashes the Matrix, like you could just see the anger in his eyes as they're squinting and narrowing, and
yeah,
a lot of eye movement there. And I don't know if I've necessarily seen that in a Transformers animated episode so far.
Yeah, really showing off what the 2D hand-drawn animation can do, and kind of thumbing it to the CGI stuff a little bit, really getting those facial expressions down. I really like that.
We know that the Decepticons are now attacking this construction site, and you get the return of some good old-fashioned G1 Union boys.
Right, yeah.
Because I mean, like they got the yellow boots and the helmets, and that that's going to add towards my G1 score at the end of this. But yeah, that was a delight to see, and even then, like it is kind of like vague desert too. Just because like there's like these abandoned construction sites and stuff too, so it kind of does look vaguely 1984 as we're in the far-flung future of New Detroit.
Right. The days of future past that we got going on here. But yeah, this battle that ensues when the Autobots show up to take care of Blitzwing and Lugnut is awesome. We haven't seen a battle like this good in a while. And going back to what you were saying about the animation being different, I don't know if someone's working on this, a different team or something, but they're really hitting some notes. This battle is cool. There's an intense score. The stakes have already been set up to be really high, and I thought it had a very like anime style to it. There was a lot of like the posing and some of the more classic stuff you get from an anime battle, including Lugnut's multi-missiles. When he does that thing where he hunkers down and all the panels open and all these impossible amount of missiles fly out of him with these long exhaust tails, I was like, oh, that's just so anime. That is such an anime thing.
Absolutely, and that's not the only anime trope we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of stuff very soon, but like I love that like armadillo mode he almost kind of goes into, because you can hear the transforming sound. It's like, and Lugnut does this a lot, like before spoilers later when he actually scans in alt mode, but anytime he like deploys his weaponry, there's a little to it, and I thought that was so metal when he like just like hunkers down and his back just opens up and all. I mean, this is Missiles, the television show. This episode of Transformers Animated brought to you by Missiles.
Right. Yeah, we haven't seen this many missiles since Homo's Where the Spark Is was just shooting off random stuff.
Yeah.
In a possible way.
Well, and I, prior to this, I appreciate the self-awareness by the Autobots when they leave Sari behind. Like Ratchet says something to the effect of like,
"But I wanna."
We've barely held our own against one Decepticon. We're not risking your life against two.
This is getting out of hand. Now there's two of them. That kind of thing.
Right. And these guys are tough. I don't, there's not really a spoken element to it, but these guys aren't bit players. These are the muscle of the Decepticons. And kind of to your earlier point, now I'm sort of backtracking what I said earlier, when we get Decepticon, Black Arachnia and Soundwave were sort of, a gray area Decepticon and a makeshift Decepticon. This is two actual, we're here for the cause. We've been with the movement. And we do the grunt work, and they're just basically death from above. They're phase sixers, I guess, if we're going to put it in IDW.
There you go.
Continuity, right? They're just going to come and lay waste to the planet and clear a path for Megatron.
Yeah, I mean, any one of them would have been more than a match for the Autobots, but when you put them together, it's pretty dynamic. The animation here again rocks like Slayer. So you get this really cool standoff between Lugnut and Bulkhead.
Yeah.
And this is so cool because like it is classic Marvel Comics, where it's like you've got your big bruiser characters just knocking the hell out of each other. It's the first thing I had written down was that it's like, oh, it's the Hulk versus the Thing.
Oh yeah.
But then later on, though, I was mistaken in my early note taking. Lugnut is basically Juggernaut.
Oh yeah. Oh, great point.
Because he even says something like, to where it's very much like, kind of like what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I really, really like that. But yeah, it's like, I was waiting for Lugnut to just pop off and say, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Right. Just sneak it in there. No one will notice.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this fight keeps going, and it's so sweet. And then to give it the most anime finish off of all, Lugnut does the punch. It's got a name, capital T, capital P, the punch. Blitzwing has seen it before, has a name for it.
Yep.
And it's this very it's kind of like Optimus's axe, right? Like it's rocket power. The rocket opens up from his elbow.
Yeah.
And then it looks to me like he gets a big button that transforms on his fist. And then when that hits the ground, smoking crater, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's scorched earth stuff.
Real seismic charge action. It's a cool attack, and it looks so dynamic. And again, you get that little bit of transformation to it. It's like, and then like the thrusters fire, and it's just again, this is probably the most anime episode of Transformers Animated I've seen so far. This just the spectacular action that they put into this is very, very cool. Is it at this point, or maybe it's after Blitzwing says, like, give me a warning next time about the punch?
If I told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. Give me some warning before you use the punch.
But Megatron makes his presence known.
Yeah.
And but prior to that, he's watching this unfold, and he's like,
It's about time they came for me. But can they be trusted? After all, I've already been betrayed by one of my own.
But I love this legislation he does with himself, where he's like, Blitzwing is unstable, obviously. But then he's like, Lugnut is loyal. And so he chooses to reveal himself to Lugnut, but not Blitzwing, which I thought was an interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, I think this scene's so cool because it's like Megatron, it's like doing the thing you're not supposed to do as a parent, right? You're choosing between your children. Like he's literally like, I'm going to pick my favorite here, and it's 1, 2, 3, not you, right? It's Lugnut is his chosen one. That's who he's going to whisper in the ear. And or on the other hand, maybe he's like, there's too many voices in Blitzwing's head. I want to be the only one.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it is a great scene.
What is that like for Blitzwing? Because we know that each face has its own personality to it. It's like, you have the random Joker face, you have the more thuggish face that's more of a brute, and then I guess you have what would just be kind of like regular Blitzwing, the one with the more round eyepiece and stuff like that.
The sensible one a little bit.
Yeah, but still kind of not. It's kind of interesting. Right. It's like I don't know if there's a lot of nuance and difference between regular Blitzwing and say like, the more thicker chinned Blitzwing, the more violent Blitzwing, because it's like
the muscle.
Yeah. There you go. I just kind of wonder what's going on in that bee's nest of a head of his. And then of course you've got random Blitzwing just kind of like, Deadpooling it up.
Yeah. It's kind of curious because they don't necessarily, I don't know that we've seen them like literally talk to each other, but they do have some concept of when the other one's talking because they take over and finish each other's sentences.
Yeah.
So there must be some sort of interplay between those three that goes on like off screen.
Right. And I wonder if there's a conscious choice where it's like, I'm handing this, what is the transition, because it's like, because like, even like, I mean, I still am taken back to the first time we meet random Blitzwing, where it's like, it's his Joker face and you're expecting him to be monstrous, but no, he's Deadpool. He's an agent of chaos.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I'm going to break out in song. And it's like, what? I mean,
He
especially
needs to start breaking the fourth wall, that face. That would be really funny. Talking about some of the other Transformers continuities, the ones that sucked, stuff like that.
Yeah. I would like that quite a bit. I mean, maybe because I'm just stuck on that that More Than Meets the Eye whirl is just basically Deadpool. So I think that's what's kind of sticking in my head that way for no apparent reason.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, but so basically, heeding the call of Megatron, Lugnut just decides to fuck off, and he's just like, yeah, let's get out of here. And even then, Blitzwing's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
and then the Autobots are just as confused. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, their jaws on the floor. They just got their ass kicked, and then they just, that was the only thing that saved them, really.
So basically, like, so Blitzwing and Lugnut kind of fight in the air, and then that's kind of how they end up at this army base, right?
Yeah, they get in a little mid-air collision there. They sort of tussle with each other. I just think it's so funny, all the references Blitzwing makes in this episode to Lugnut being crazy. Right, as he talks amongst his three personalities, he keeps mentioning how crazy Lugnut is. I just think that's a nice touch. That was really smart.
And they say I'm the crazy one.
Yeah, so someone that has established multiple personalities is flinging shit in the eye of somebody that says that he hears Megatron's voice. It's like, why does he find that to be so unreasonable?
Right. Yeah, so the midair fight ends with them coming crashing back to the Earth. And I think this part's really genius. Blitzwing mistakes the cops for Autobot reinforcements, quote unquote. I thought that was really cool. Because, yeah, that's what they would assume, right? Like, oh, man, the Autobots called their friends in. But this is a great opportunity for them to scan some new alt modes. We haven't seen this since probably about episode 1. So it's really cool to see that back in the saddle and have it be a Decepticon doing it. And I think it's so cool how Blitzwing, the triple changer, comes about. Like, this to me is, triple changers were a cool concept as a toy. This adds some credence to the story of why you would have a triple changer. This can't decide between the two modes. Let's scan them both and see what happens. I think that's genius. And the Chaos Face does the why not both. And it kind of reminded me of like Joey from Friends, right? When Chandler is like, I got to know, Joe, the girl from the Xerox place buck naked or a big tub of jam. And he's like, put your hands together. The Chaos Face is like, do both, baby. Why do we got to choose?
Yeah. Well, and I love that there's like a sense of danger and uncertainty to it. It's like he literally says, let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know if it's going to kill him.
He doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he might end up being some like, horrible amalgamation thing where he's got like, tank bits and plane bits coming out of the wrong stuff or whatever. And so I think that's very cool. And I love that it's a neat payoff for what we've seen of Blitzwing already having multiple personalities. And what better triple changer? That's awesome.
Yeah. And the vehicles he scans look so cool. Like, it's a little bit of a departure from the original Blitzwing toy and the look and everything, but the two vehicles he scans are just so cool. It's like, I just can't wait. I can't wait to see it. And I can tell you right off the bat, Mike, the toy for Blitzwing is excellent. It looks exactly like both of those. Everything's hidden away real nice. You think it's a marvel of engineering just having two modes that one looks like a total cartoon character, one looks like a car. This, like, everything seems to hide away like really nicely. I'm just so amazed, like, how did they get to these toys to look like this stuff? And there must have been some planning, because otherwise I don't know how this toy could even exist, this triple changer, in this world.
And there is there's kibble for both modes in each mode as well. Which is great, because it's like, the plane mode or the plane that he scans has what kind of looks like the bottom of tank treads on it already. And
Right.
and I don't think that's a cheat. I think that's good design.
Right.
Rather
I think that's what people want to see, and I think that's what some of the later live action movies were starting to get away from. It's like, no, we do like kibble to some extent. We want to see that they have wheels. We want to see that there's some wings and some tank treads in the same thing to signify that they're a triple changer. I think that's something the Bumblebee did right when they introduced their triple changers. There was definitely all those parts and pieces. We wanted to see them all at once.
Absolutely. And I love the bomber that Lugnut chooses. Like it's pretty neat. And
the heavy armed cargo plane.
I mean, and having just recently seen Rise of the Beasts, I mean that's almost what Stratosphere is. It's like, just thicken him up just a little bit. I wonder if we could get, hey, is there a Stratosphere toy yet? I don't know.
Not yet, but here's hoping.
I was gonna say you just throw some extra armor on it, and that's a Lugnut retool just begging to be done.
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah,
there is actually a really great. It came out for Revenge of the Fallen when they were kind of taking some. It's the same line that took and did Lockdown reimagined in that mode. There's one for Lugnut, and it looks so cool. It's very rare. It's probably so spendy. I'm never going to get my hands on one, but it does look a lot like the show, but adding the realism of the live action universe. I want that toy.
And welcome back to the show, Captain Fanzone. He's been taking a break, and I was delighted to see him return with his bullhorn back in effect, just yelling at people.
Hey, someone want to tell me how something that big can just disappear?
Yeah, they're playing him just right. We missed Captain Fanzone now for a couple episodes. We wanted him back. We're excited when we see him again. Yep, he's doing his thing. He's still on his bullshit, as they say.
Exactly. And I am a sucker for any time we go back to the core concept of the Transformers. And again, a lot of fiction loses track of this sometimes. Transformers are robots in disguise.
Yes.
So we see the Autobots doing that a lot, but it's nice to see some Decepticons actually being robots in disguise and hiding. And again, kind of very, very 2007, very live action.
Right. And that's something that we were missing with the Autobots, because everyone knows them. They don't need to be in vehicle mode unless they're doing a high-speed chase. This we actually need to hide. The Decepticons need to hide on Earth. They need to do their deception thing, right? And so we actually get the robots in disguise. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So we return to the Autobot base back at their abandoned warehouse / factory / fireworks manufacturing plant / whatever you want it to be.
They go back to lick their wounds, as it were.
Exactly, because they just got their asses kicked. I mean, just totally getting your dick knocked in the dirt there by these tough Decepticons. So it's here that Optimus decides it's like,
we'll have to repair our ship and move the Allspark off this planet.
The only way to protect the Allspark is to get it off the Earth. We gots to go. So Optimus gives the order to repair the ship, and I'm left with this question that I guess I hadn't really thought about, because like in the earlier episodes, we're seeing the Autobots come and go from the ship on the regular, like before they set up in their warehouse base. But I don't know if I ever really got the sense that the ship is specifically in disrepair. I just thought it was just chilling at the bottom of Lake Erie, waiting for whatever. I don't, maybe I missed it, but like I don't remember a line of dialogue where it's like, oh man, this ship is jacked. It'll never fly again. So we're just going to leave it here in the bottom of Lake Erie.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think there is something that specifically says that. Although, was there in the original Transformers? I mean, granted, it was pretty heavily embedded in a volcano there, but was there any sort of, was there any exchange between Wheeljack and Optimus saying that thing's fucked?
So in the pilot, in More Than Meets the Eye Part 1, 2, and 3, there is a heavy emphasis on, well, we need to repair our ship. And in a sense, something that really one of the weird unresolved bits of continuity is it's heavily implied that they do in fact repair their ship and they're about to go back to Cybertron with Spike in tow. But yeah, I think the implication is that the ship is in disrepair. And yeah, like I said, maybe I just missed it. I didn't realize that the ship was broke and couldn't fly. I didn't think because I thought that the entire motivation for staying on Earth is to hide the Allspark and to, kind of safeguard it. And I'm probably making way too much of it at this point, but
no,
yeah,
I think this tracks.
It just kind of threw me off a little bit, where it's like, oh, what do you mean your ship is broke?
Yeah, well, I was going to say this was very believable to me outside of the universe, because as a person who didn't drive my car for a solid year during COVID, and then when I went to go start it up, completely fucked. It was at least, I think I put at least $1,000 in it trying to get it fixed back up to running just from not being used. So I can imagine if it was down at the bottom of the ocean for 50 years. Yeah, this thing ain't going anywhere.
Excellent point. I like it. So we really kind of get ratcheting tensions, pardon the pun, or pun fully intended, ironically enough, accidentally.
Yeah, it's perfect.
But yeah, it's like I had mentioned, I'm kind of frustrated with the recent trajectory of Sari's character, and this sequence does not help, where it's just like, well, we have to protect the Allspark. And it's like, oh shit, how is Sari gonna take it? Smash cut to her just unhinged, unreconcilably whining.
I think she's taking it well. Sorry. Please try to understand.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. And this scene is important because it really leads to a great moment later. So this is, again, one of these things that is not lost. But yeah, you have kind of two interesting feuding viewpoints here. Ratchet, but Ratchet's also being a little bit whiny too, right? Because he needs Sari's key, but he doesn't like it. He knows what he can do to go repair the Ark. He hasn't wanted it. He's been too stubborn to ask for the key or for Sari's help. Clearly, this went on too long that Optimus had to give an order. That's enough. You're not going to fix it. Use her key. And then Sari, being a kid, is just like, well, I don't want my friends to leave. And so she's trying to fight for not repairing the ship. And that you can say that's sort of a shitty take to have when the fate of your friends in the universe potentially is in jeopardy. But at least she's a kid making this choice. Ratchet's an old war veteran being like, I'm not going to ask for help.
Right. It's kind of alternate trajectories, and there's enough wrong to go around.
Yeah.
And it is easy for me to forget that Sari is a child, so she's not a fully grown adult,
who makes perfect choices all the time.
Exactly. And that's so, and this uses that and pays it off later. So it's not to waste here. And you're absolutely right. When you get that tender moment at the end, it makes this part worth it. But as I was watching it the first time, it really grated on me.
Was it cringy, as the kids say? Was it a little cringy for you?
Yes. Yeah. The cringe was real.
Yeah. We'll have to give this a cringe score.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, I mean, so Optimus, as he's telling them it's like it or not, you're allies. And he drops a line here about the key being quote unquote charged by the Allspark. And I think that's an interesting line for a couple reasons. Because one, based on all of our key legislation, I don't think that's the case. I think it goes far deeper than that, than by just simply being imbued with the power of the Allspark. I mean, yes, it's obviously that, but there is a deeper connection that I don't know if anybody understands.
Yeah, I would say they don't. I think really the only one that gets it at this point is Megatron. I still think, I still think it's funny that they're kind of blaming Sari for what she chooses to do with the key when really there's someone else kind of pulling the strings here.
That's an excellent observation. So Sari and Ratchet kind of get to work, and they're kind of snipping and bitching at each other. And Sari says something to the effect of like,
Do old bots always smell funny?
which
That was a great line.
Yeah, you get some really good bickering here.
Yeah, and then we have old Cranston Guilderstern, Blitzwing and Lugnut. They're back kind of talking about what they need to do, and then we get more Blitzwing commenting on the voices inside Lugnut's head, which again I love. And then they're gonna the teams collide once again, right? So we get these planes laying siege to the Autobots from above. You thought you got the greatest battle already. Now we're getting another good one, and this one's again very sweet. It starts with like planes bombing the heck out of them. Prowl gets some shuriken work in, which I love. We love to see that. And I think we also, going back to Ryan Jett's famous line, we get some cars being cars action. There's actually some like driving around going on and using the vehicle modes, which I think is awesome in a fight scene. That's what they should be doing. That's the dodge and weave of the Transformer world, right? Switching to car, switching to robot, switching back, being unpredictable.
Yeah, that's what you want to see, that dynamic action, and we get so much here, and again, so many missiles. All of the missiles.
Oh my god, the missiles here! This is like 1,000 years of war efforts by the Decepticons just to arm Lugnut for this one episode.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that there's like like Decepticon micromasters that are just slaving away making missiles, and it's just like, why do we got to make all these missiles all the time? And it's like, because Lugnut.
Hey Ted, who's using all these missiles? They're going through these missiles like left and right. What is with all these missiles? Yeah, it's good. That'd be a good bit. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, you're at the Decepticon break room, and they're just bitching about all these munitions. It's like, why do we keep making this Energon mace? He used it once. Megatron.
Well, I'm missing my kid's birthday, I guess, because I got to make more missiles.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! Because every new Megatron has to have that stupid Energon mace. He doesn't even use the damn thing. God damn it!
Right, this goes deeper. Yeah,
it's very silly.
So speaking of firepower too, we also see again Blitzwing has these cool ice powers.
How about that?
I think that's a really cool little touch. Got a little fire and ice going. So yeah, he sort of, we saw it once make like a little skating rink, and now he uses it to ice the whole lake, or a big chunk of Lake Erie, enough that it almost looks like wintertime for the rest of the episode.
I was going to ask that, and again, keeping with our chronology, Halloween wasn't that long ago. It stands to reason that maybe we're in November times. It could be kind of wintry. But my question is, so I live in the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle area. I will confess that I'm not entirely familiar with the geography of the Great Lakes. I know that they are great and mighty, but how thick is that ice? There's a lot of geographical challenges I have here. It's like, first, how thick is the ice? It's like, so like for the first time viewer, I thought for some reason that the lake was already frozen, like for the winter. I don't know why I thought that. I would have to watch it a second time to see if I can find evidence to substantiate that. I don't know if that's just a result of Blitzwing's freeze powers. He like freezes the entirety of the lake or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is,
I would say that is the case, because as someone that lived on the shores of Lake Superior, that lake don't freeze. So this would definitely have to be some sort of Cybertronian technology, some cryogenic level of freezing going on that could do that much. I mean, if we're talking volume wise, though, there's definitely enough water that you'd have that giant chunk and then still so much depth beneath it. But yeah, that has to be some powerful ice rays.
Yeah. And so you go through this whole thing where Blitzwing kind of like freezes the lake, and then The Autobots kind of like try to break through the ice to get down, and this whole sequence gets kind of like visually confusing for me because like it feels like this showdown happens like in the wreckage of an old pirate ship. It's like, are there pirate ships in the bottom of Lake Erie?
There are a lot of ships down there, but I don't know about pirates. It's possible.
Okay. Well, maybe it's not a pirate ship, but so it's not unfair to say that Lake Erie is vast enough to where there would be wrecks down there.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm sort of going off Lake Superior again, which definitely has wrecks in the bottom. I don't know if Lake Erie's big enough, but I would imagine if the same situation, it's great for a reason, right? It's one of the Great Lakes for a reason. So
this is
probably
true.
There's some room down there.
I just like that we're having geography legislation.
Yeah.
See, because since we retired numbers legislation, why not have geography legislation? Because I was like, and that lukewarm take goes all the way back to the beginning. I was like, how big is Lake Erie? How deep is it? How deep is it not? To where the Autobots could just drive up from their ship. So it's like, there's certainly a lot of like, geographical misunderstanding that I'm just not.
He's just actually really dialing it back, folks. He really wants to know about the geography here. He's doing you a favor and muting it.
So this is kind of where we have like the big fight on the floor of the lake, right? Where it's like, everything's all smoky and you got the sand, and it almost kind of becomes like a submarine fight in a weird way. Even though everybody's in robot form, it's like, almost kind of like Wrath of Khan in a sense, where it's like, oh, I see them out there, that kind of thing. It's a very cool visual concept for that fight, as the Autobots are kind of trying to make their stand against Blitzwing and Lugnut to buy Sari and Ratchet more time to repair the ship.
Yeah, and as a guy who's been watching a lot of Godzilla, it kind of reminded me of some of those underwater fights in Godzilla where there's just kind of debris around, everybody's got to move a little bit slower, but it's another cool, visually cool third battle that we get in this episode. We're eating really well for battle fans in this episode.
Absolutely. Well, and it's kind of funny because like I think our recap discussion, there isn't necessarily a whole lot of meat on the bone, because it's very action packed, and there are entire sequences where it's just wall to wall action. So it's like, in terms of like, character development and nuance and dialogue and all that other stuff, not a whole lot to clue in on. So ironically enough, I would imagine this episode will be a bit on the shorter side compared to the other episode that will probably be disproportionately long.
As much as we want to talk about second by second of punches going on.
Because it is a lot of that. It's just like a lot of great dynamic fighting. And like, is it here at this point where Megatron kind of gets in Lugnut's head, and it's just like,
Lugnut, don't get distracted. I want the old spark. Yes, I will not fail you, Master.
If I could finish off these Autobots already. And he does this thing where he like transforms into plane mode and uses the propellers to more or less push away the I keep trying to call it a smoke screen, but that's obviously not accurate because they're under the water.
Oh yeah, it's all the kicked up sand and debris spiraling around them. Yeah,
and basically pushes away all of the debris field, and the Autobots are just sitting ducks here. And Optimus is like, dude, you got to figure this out like now.
Yeah. The time is up on for both of them. Actually, this is like this is ticking clock times 2. I do want to mention too. There's a really cool in this scene. There's a really cool showdown between Lugnut and Prowl. It's really cool to see his like mass and strength against the leanest, lithest of the Autobots. That was a really nice pair up that I appreciated seeing. But yeah, now the clock's ticking. They gotta get to business. Megatron is pissed because they're not moving fast enough. Optimus is pissed at Ratchet because he's not moving fast enough. And at one point, Lugnut actually, because of all that debris, Lugnut punches out Blitzwing. in the confusion.
Oh my God, yes, yeah, and I think that was the part that kind of made me think it was Wrath of Khan a little bit, where it's just like, oh no, that's us, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's oh man, so cool. It's like, oh, I have you now. So you get so much of that, and in all the fighting, we skip past intercutting with Sari and Ratchet working on the ship, and Sari has kind of her meltdown where she's just like, fine, I'm just going to sabotage. And finally you see the Allspark intervene, and it glows and it reveals itself. And this is the first time that the Allspark has specifically communicated with Sari, aside from that first time when they imprinted on each other. But now it's like, if there was ever a doubt that the Allspark through the key with Sari had its own agenda, now is the time that is definitive, because the Allspark is saying like, hey man, Megatron, right? This is what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a vision of the future kind of a thing, or like something, a vision of the past and the future, actually. And finally, it needs to just be like, I can't be cryptic anymore. This is what's coming. And it shakes Sari. She's very scared by what she sees. She's so scared that, in fact, that she opens a airlock and they're underwater and the ocean starts rushing in.
Right.
But before we get to that, I think I'd be remiss if we don't talk about that when they first get aboard the Ark, Ratchet is talking to it lovingly, and poor baby kind of a thing.
Didn't think we'd forgotten about you, did you, old friend?
And reveals that this is a decommissioned warship, actually. So this isn't just a science vessel or a construction vessel that we are led to believe. There's actually some hidden weaponry on this bad boy.
Right. And maybe secrets yet to be revealed.
Yes.
Yes, secret foreshadowing.
Right. Gotta be careful.
Yeah.
So yeah, this vision of Megatron returning, very scary. And Ratchet comes down, to save her and to seal off the airlock. She can tell Sari's very shook. And this is where we get that really tender moment. This is beyond what I thought the voice acting capability could be of Corey Burton, because this little moment of Ratchet, you can tell he's almost starting to cry, and it made me well up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And he admits that he's very fond of Earth, and that's why they have to leave, to protect it. This isn't about me not wanting your help, or this isn't about me hating you in any way. I do like this planet, and more than that, I like people, and I don't want to see this world destroyed just because we're here.
I understand. I've become surprisingly attached to this little planet and its people. Especially you.
Right, exactly. And he even puts a button on it. It's like he escalates to the point where it's like,
if anything happened to you at the hands of the Decepticons, that's why we have to leave. I'd never forgive myself.
Which, I mean, it makes the bickering earlier in the episode kind of really, it pays it off really well, in that, like, you bicker with the folks that you love the most. It's like, because, like, I don't know about anybody else, but I don't bicker with people I don't care about. I mean, it's like,
exactly.
I have to like you enough to spend my time bickering with you, that kind of thing.
Right. Totally.
Which is why we do this podcast. Yes.
Us did.
Yeah. Boom, roasted. But yeah, no, this moment is tremendous. And then even before that, you get or after that, I mean, you get that thing where, the Allspark key drags Sari by the neck over to the panel that she just wrecked. And she's like, well, God damn it, what are you doing? And then you see the Allspark vision. But, like, through all of this, it finally clicks into place. And, they can finally help each other. And yeah, as we said, Ratchet has a plan. and there's a couple surprises here, and I couldn't help when you see this the turret and the cannon and how it spins around, and again I'm avoiding secret foreshadowing, but it gave me feels of a different kind. It reminds me of Autobot City and Transformers the movie, where like that last turret spins around, and if they weren't underwater, I would have loved a glint on the gun barrel.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, and there's sort of there's that almost physical weight to it having to turn. You know,
Yeah.
they did that in such a way where it's like someone's really like grinding gears to get this thing in position. And it sort of evoked for me too, kind of the Millennium Falcon turrets too, like they're kind of old and cranky and kind of like Ratchet himself, and you know. But yeah, it very much has to keep it Transformers. It very much has that Autobot City transforming feel to it.
Yeah, and then these fools are just murdered. just like, I mean, I wrote down in my notes, are they okay? Exclamation point, question mark.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it looks like they are super dead.
This is like a railgun level weapon.
Yeah.
This is to call back into like anime stuff. Like this is just like it superheats the water around it.
Right.
It just boils away the lake, and it's a blast from not our world.
Literally, yeah. It's like fire up the wave motion gun.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
very, very much that.
And that was the wave motion gun. It's a lot more powerful than we figured on.
But we discovered that they are indeed okay, in floating little bits, cartoonish bits where you get, I mean, and it is revealed fast enough to where, again, children's show, and you know, it's like if you establish that kind of peril, you got to kind of undo it pretty quickly. It's like, no, they're super okay, but their bickering continues.
Right. And I guess at this moment, the thought went through my head, throwback to the Along Came a Spider episodes. Like, here you go, Lita. Here you go, Mike. Here's your dismembered Decepticons that you wanted so bad. Here's the chunks of their body floating in the water.
Oh,
you're
man.
welcome. Merry Christmas.
Exactly. Happy New Year. Feliz Navidad. But man, yeah, these dudes get wrecked. Just fuck the fuck up. It's glorious. It's delightful. I wonder, because I mean, I really want to kind of look into this Blitzwing figure we were just talking about, but I wonder. It would be so cool, kind of similar to how Studio Series 86 Cup has removable arms and legs. I wonder what the removability of some of these limbs would be if you could actually like pop them off or whatever. That would be pretty cool. But
your freakishness continues. Where's Lita? Let's get her on the line. Let's get her in here. She can talk about dismemberment too.
Yeah, exactly.
So we leave them for a minute, and that would be a fitting end. You know, I could see that being the classic ending of them floating in the water. We come back to the base, and we see Sari seems to have learned her lesson about the key. Finally, only wants to use it for good now. Her and Ratchet are on the same page. Finally. And Optimus, I guess he's been rooting for this the whole time. But it took Ratchet in this situation to teach her the lesson. And best of all, she's Ratchet now.
Yes.
She gets grumpy. She does the voice. She even takes on his dents a little bit.
A little
in the
bit,
animation style. She sort of gets that crinkly, crumply. If you could chip a chevron off her, it would have done it right there.
Yeah, her face gets really scrunchy here. And it's interesting because, like, you know, poor Bumblebee is just like...
Do you think you could customize me? Maybe add some of those rims that spin?
You know, and it's interesting because, like, I don't remember seeing this before where... You know, I mean, it's explicit that Sari uses her key to heal damaged Autobots. That's obviously canon, but it was interesting to see Bumblebee's leg, who has like a hole torn in it, just close. I don't remember if I've seen like that explicit of healing before. It's usually just like stick the key in it, and you're fine.
Yeah, and this might be something kind of new now that the key and Sari are on a similar page. Maybe it's responding in a new way, or do now that they're kind of in, maybe it's more like they're in sync, like the Drift and Pacific Rim. Like now that they're aligned on their goals, now things are working properly. It's not just a turning over the engine. It's I can change the very nature of cyber organic matter.
Right. Which is terrifying in its implications.
Yes, absolutely. And I bet Black Arachnia wishes she had waited one episode to make her appearance. Because then maybe it would have worked on her properly.
Yeah, that's why she was crying in the moonlight. She's like, God damn it.
Yeah. I'm too early. Maybe she's like a time traveler. I'm too early.
Yeah. So if only I had more time. I have a time machine. But yeah, I love that Sari has that explicit, specific line, the key is not a toy.
This key isn't a toy, Bumblebee. We're gonna need its power to repair the rest of your ship.
Yeesh. You sound just like Ratchet.
That girl.
Yes. Yeah, definitely a great payoff.
You need that to seal the deal forever, because like I had said, both in this episode and in the episode before, Sound and Fury, it's like it felt like the development that Sari had made up to that point, including in episode 9, Along Came a Spider, when Optimus gives her the key and she's like, yeah, maybe I'll lay off the key for a while. All of that just slid backwards. Like we were having like negative character development. But this feels like you almost have to do that so that you can have the rebound this hard, where she specifically says it. And when she says it this time, I believe her. Whereas previously it was more that Dennis the Menace wink and a nod type of thing. Like, oh, I'll be good, but this time it's like there's a earnest seriousness to it now more than there was previously.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was kind of tiptoeing around in the last episode was, we could say it was birthday week shenanigans, but, we did need to see this visually, that she's kind of back on her bullshit again of messing around with the key.
Yeah.
And it needs to learn this lesson again, even harder than before. And then that's great, because you're doing that a whole episode early. Like that seems like something another show would maybe start at the beginning of the episode, but they actually went a whole episode before it, and let her run wild with the key and then pay it off in this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So it feels like the scales are balanced, and like you said, we're drift compatible again, and
it's a great ending. This is a great moment. The episode could end here, right? With I'm fine with dismembered Decepticon parts in the ocean and them having their little moment at the end. But instead, we get almost like a stinger, almost like a post mid-credit scene.
In my notes, I wrote holy post-credit scene.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, and that's exactly how it feels, because in this 23-minute cartoon, we've already had 2 great endings, but nope. And it feels exactly like you said, like a post-credit, mid-credit thing. It fades. There's an actual fade out, and then it fades back in.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so cool. This scene is so righteous, because Lugnut is sitting there and he's well established as basically a Megatron worshiper, and he asks for a sign from the mighty Megatron, come down on high and save us, mighty Megatron. And who does he get? Who does the traveler take the form of? Starscream. Starscream drops out of the sky and offers salvation.
I'll help you downgrades.
In return for allegiance to him alone.
Yeah.
Wow. What a thing that Lugnut's going to have to fight through.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. What a thing. I mean, and first of all, it's like, oh, so Starscream, super okay, apparently, because like when we see him disappear at the end of Transform and Roll Out Part 3, he like turns white, kind of chalky gray, like Optimus did when he died, and then disappears. So where has Starscream been? What's become of him? It's just like so many questions, and
so good.
And now I feel like now that we're at episode 11 of 16, I feel like this is when we start going over the edge now, and it's just going to be, we're just on the frickin' roller coaster now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I cannot wait.
It's going to come fast and furious.
Yeah.
Too fast, in fact.
Too furious. Oh man, shout out to Ludacris there.
Yeah. The sole reason our show is named what it is. Thanks, Ludacris.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Ludacris. Oh man. So there it is. That is Transformers animated season 1, episode 11, Lost and Found. And Ed, you were going to say something profound.
No, but I was just curious, how do these new Decepticons stack up for you? I mean, we can take a little inventory here. How, now that you're seeing the team that was foreshadowed in the very first episode, now that we're seeing them fleshed out, who do you like? Who don't you? What are you thinking?
Holy smokes. Well, I think ironically enough, I think Black Arachnia has still been kind of, despite having an entire spotlight episode that she kind of had to split with being an origin episode, I think her character is still a little undercooked. Now that we've seen the transformation from Elita 1 to Black Arachnia, now I want to just see Black Arachnia, to where it's like, unburdened from all the, I got a thing for a bad girl. So I want to see more of that. I am excited for the return of Starscream. I was very enthusiastic about this iteration of Starscream. So I'm glad that we're getting some more Tom Kenny in this role. So I can't wait to see what happens next. But maybe it's because of the newness. I really like this tandem duo of Blitzwing and Lugnut. And it's interesting because, like, as I've gone along in this journey, I've learned that Lugnut is a fan favorite character. And up until now, I'm like, why? Because it seems like his defining trait is Megatron simp. And
right.
that's fine. But from a certain point of view, that's what you have Soundwave for. But here, or even Shockwave in G1 cartoon continuity. So when those two characters don't exist in that capacity, you need somebody to be that fierce loyalist, and Lugnut definitely fits that role. But I like a evil bruiser as much as I love a good guy bruiser. It's like, I like that he's the juggernaut, that, he's basically like this unstoppable object, that kind of thing. I just like the sheer force and brutality of him. But I had said previously that I've been waiting for Blitzwing. Like, Blitzwing is one of my favorite characters. He was one of my favorite toys as a kid. And now that I get to see kind of his, kind of fully actualized nature with the 3 faces and now with the 3 modes, I like Blitzwing quite a lot. But yeah, no, I do understand why folks like Lugnut so much. So the jury is still out, but like I came into this episode given fuck all about Lugnut, and I'm leaving this episode being a fan and understand why folks are ride or die for this guy. He's a great character.
Right. It's very easy to kind of write him off as sort of a amoebic brained and just sort of a foil for Bulkhead, but actually he's kind of his own thing and pretty intricate and very powerful. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again,
he almost doesn't even need Blitzwing, to be honest.
He almost doesn't need Blitzwing. You're absolutely right, because really Blitzwing's contribution to the fight is really just kind of like the fire and ice. So it's like he doesn't even really use his jet mode to much advantage, and really the extent of his tank mode is using it to drop from the sky, and which is great. I mean, I love that. That's a great Blitzwing thing where it's like he goes from jet mode to tank mode in midair and then just drops. I like that, where he like drops through the ice into the sunken pirate ship. But,
right. That's well played. That was well played.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, great episode, great characters. I am a fan, and I continue to be excited for where this goes. I think it's time to get into Mike's G1 score. So this one's kind of interesting for me because it does have a lot of references, but it has a lot of references to stuff that isn't spelled out. Like, all of the stuff with the Autobot ship that we're just not talking about, because it's like, I wonder if this is a Bucky really is the Winter Soldier thing, and we're just going to pretend that he's not type of thing. It's like that I know that the Winter Soldier is actually Bucky, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because like this was something that came up on Twitter months ago. Somebody had posted a picture of the ship, and it's like, oh, hey man, do you know what this is? And I'm like, well, I do now.
Yeah. Right.
I think it's one of those things where it is pretty clear, but to me, I thought, and again, I don't know the trajectory of the show, and nobody tell me, but it feels like they're either teeing that up or it's something that just becomes unresolved, because I do know that there are things in Transformers Animated that, because it was canceled after 3 seasons, not renewed for a 4th season, that there are things that are kind of unrealized. So I don't know where this stands, and it doesn't help that I've seen pictures from the Allspark Almanac. I've seen stuff that JoBot has posted. So there are things that I know about the nature of the Autobot ship, but what I don't know is if that's something that actually happens or that could happen or could have happened. And again, don't tell me, but I think that skews my G1 score, because I could say things like, when, even like the style of the tank turret, there's a lot of Omega Supreme imagery here, but without having that deal sealed for me, I can't count it as an explicit G1 reference because it's not specifically referenced. It's heavily implied, especially when Ratchet is referring to the ship as old friend. But yeah, it's and even I think it goes all the way back to the first episode. It's something like there's a reference to codename Omega or something like that. So it's it's in the DNA, but I don't think I'm supposed to look at it. I don't think I'm supposed to pull at that thread. So I've said enough on it. I'm choosing not
Let's
to.
just call it a Transforming Autobot City reference and chalk that into your score.
There you go. But really, outside of the Union Boys and maybe the fact that that we get vague construction vehicles, again, not knowing what this episode was, I thought maybe we were doing Constructicons. When Blitzwing rolls up to that bulldozer, that excavator, and it's just like, what do you know? Tell me, that kind of thing, where he's talking to him like it's an Autobot. I'm like, is that secret foreshadowing? Is that what we're doing in this episode? Because those construction vehicles do appear to be on model for what Constructicons could be.
Yeah, I wonder if that was done on purpose to kind of, subvert expectations of oh boy, we're going to get them.
Yeah, because I really thought that was going to happen. But so for me, this, I don't know. I think I'm going to go in the middle. I'm going to give it a just below passing. I'll give it a 4.3 on the G1 scale. Nice. The Union Boys are fine, but it's all of the Dark of the Moon stuff, the lunar lander is, the rover, those are references, but they're not specific G1 references. But conversely, though, I score it higher because I think part of what goes into the sauce of my score is how much of a TFA episode is and how much of an anti-G1 episode it is. So It's so when I'm given something like a 1.2, that means it's not G1 TFA through and through. This one's kind of in the middle, because it has a lot of that kind of that kinetic action that you would expect from a G1. It kind of gives a little bit of movie flavor. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Sure. I was still caught up on you saying anti-TFA. I was starting to have glimpses of Antifa, and I hope this doesn't come to that.
No.
Nobody talk to me about Antifa. I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah, no. How about no?
Yeah, no, that's a great score. To keep the lights and sirens score going, I just wrote down, in the words of K2SO,
it's high. It's very high.
There was a whole fleet of police, quote unquote, Autobot friends, and there was cars actually fighting as cars. There was like boom, boom, boom sirens all the time. You got some Captain Fanzone in there, which I think just the appearance of him doing cop stuff bumps up the lights and sirens score. So I don't know if it has to be an actual number, but there was a lot of that going on in this episode. A lot of cars doing car stuff.
Yeah, and like seeing the entire armada of police vehicles coming, and what a delightful moment where Blitzwing mistakes them for an army of Autobots. It's very
that's
cool.
So smart, right? I mean, that could have just easily been like, oh no, here comes, transform. Like they actually made something of it, and that's those little great character moments when a character reacts the way we expect them to, or really, really living up to what we want them to be.
Well, and new Earthbound Decepticons, why wouldn't they think that?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Because I mean, there's a little bit of it. I mean, you kind of get it in the construction zone scene, but that's about that in shorthand kind of gives you the fish out of water thing. Like these guys are out of their element and really don't know what the score is.
Yeah. I think why it tickles me is, as a writer, I honestly think I would have overlooked that detail. And if I was writing this episode, I think I would have forgotten that. Like, oh yeah, they don't know what that is. They just think there's things that look like Autobots to them.
Yep. Exactly. All right. So with that, before we close out the episode with everybody's favorite, the Michael Andrews pre-coup haiku, a pre-coup, if you will, let's dip back into the mailbag and race through some of the feedback we've gotten on recent episodes. Got a couple tweets from Stuart, who is a component of the More Than Meets the Ear podcast. So we're talking about Transformers Animated. Their podcast talks about Transformers Cybertron, and that's a delightful show. So if you want to talk about like a reappraisal of a show that's been overlooked mostly by the fandom, Josh, the host, he will go to bat for Transformers Cybertron, and he's brought some fans on along. They kind of watch in parallel with Transformers Cybertron, but then also Galaxy Force, the Japanese counterpart. So they do a lot of compare and contrast. But it's a fun podcast. I wish it would come out a little more often, but they're busy folks. I can appreciate.
Oh, yeah, we're ones to talk. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so Stuart is one of my G1er brothers, but he commented on the Generation X reference. He that really seemed to strike a chord with folks.
Yeah, I thought that would have been, nobody would have picked up on that, but I'm glad to hear it's got some feedback. Yeah,
and the thing that I appreciate, and I almost want to kind of try to find a lane to do this more, but it seems like the obscure TV references is what people really seem to gravitate towards. So anyway, Stuart wrote, I also remember the Generation X TV movie with Bumper Robinson. I liked Fiona Hudges as Emma Frost. I knew her from General Hospital. I was a bit disappointed we didn't get Chamber in the film. And there's a little bit of Chamber legislation. And fun trivia also from Stuart, a young Bumper Robinson plays Zamus in Enemy Mine.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And you kicked in on this. I thought this was Alpha Magnus for a second.
Yeah, I did jump in on this because it was just such great conjecture. But yeah, that one totally surprised me.
The color scheme is very similar. The Two Mikes Too Furious icon and the Alpha Magnus icon, it's all blue, white, and red. But anyway, yeah, Enemy Mine is amazing and should be praised whenever possible. My buddy Chandler, who folks will know from Autopod Decepticast fandom as Mutka Spanka, he went back deeper into the catalog and listening to Welcome to Earth, to be fair, popped off for the Out of This World reference. I didn't think anyone watched that show either. Underrated theme song too.
That is great. Yeah, a couple people picked up on that reference too. If you're looking for a wealth of obscure references to TV shows, boy, you've got the right co-host for the gig. So I'll start letting him loose a little more freely, I think.
Maybe that's what it is too. And he appreciated our inclusion of Aaron's rap at the end of those early episodes as well. Where he does the mic drop disc track, which is delightful. Kind of falls apart at the end, but outside of that is delightful. And what we were talking about earlier, it's like, you only sling mud at the folks you care about. So I appreciate that he cared enough about us to rap an entire diss track.
You only diss track the ones you love, I think is how the phrase goes.
I think so. This came to us via email, and you could send us an email at 2mikes2furious@gmail.com. But this letter is from New Daniel from APDC fandom, and he writes, "Hi, 2 Mikes. Just wanted to say that I was a huge fan of animated back in the day when it first aired, and I had several toys. I don't have any figures now since I sold them off to add to my G1 collection. This show has brought back a lot of memories and has reinvigorated my love for the show. I've started watching on Tubi TV and can't wait to hear Mike Seibert's reaction to more episodes. Oh, and I would love to hear the APDC guys on a future episode. Been a listener and fan of theirs for a while." That from New Daniel.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to have those guys on. And New Daniel, look forward to coming full circle and you selling off your G1 toys to rebuy your animated toys. So
yes.
Can't wait to see that cycle play out.
Oh my gosh, that's a real triple takeover situation where we're just selling and buying and the cycle continues.
It's a little bit of gift to the Magi. It's like that times 2. It's like an infinite loop of the Magi.
Yeah, there it is. So, we have the absolute best fans. Like, I dreamed of having this kind of influence as a podcaster as soon, for the whole time that I've done like podcasting and radio. It's like, the only thing, what gives me a huge charge is when somebody does something I've asked them to. It's like, support this comic book, go to the show, buy this record, that kind of thing, where it's like, the things that I stump for and folks end up supporting. There's no feeling in the world like it. But like when we were talking about Along Came a Spider, and we were talking about the costumes, and I had said something to the effect of like, "Oh man, I really need to get a Dracula cape for my Bumblebee to have him dress up as Count Dracubot." Our buddy Springer Sword heard that, and he got himself a Dracula cape, and he even went one better and did some digital touches, added the little Dracula fangs. And this looks really cool. He even added some cartoon animation accurate white pupils to the toy. So he because that Bumblebee toy, the deluxe Bumblebee I have, has light piping. So his eyes are clear blue instead of opaque blue like they are in the show. So in Photoshop, he made them blue, added the pupils, added the fangs, and added a spooky background to it, and says, "Listen to 2 Mikes 2 Furious episode 8. I want to suck your energon." So, which I thought was absolutely delightful.
I just want to piggyback on that a little bit. You all are great out there. The people listening and the people giving feedback. That's, I always like to give my little snarky comeback to this stuff, but inside I'm just like, oh my gosh, people are listening. So that's so cool. Love to hear it.
Absolutely. So 2 more bits. This specifically is about Along Came a Spider, our 2-parter. Our epic 2-parter about one episode.
I corrected the timeline of numbering, which was something that was driving me crazy.
Yes. So now this is our episode 11, which covers episode 11.
Ooh, love it.
And we get 5 more bites at that apple before the timeline resets and we go into season 2.
And I'm going to savor every bite.
So our good friend Matthew Barbario, who follows us on YouTube and comments on every episode, and he's always got terrific insight. But like for part 1, Along Came Alita, he mentioned another great episode, Mike, and Lita. I can't wait for part 2. This episode of TFA always kind of reminds me of Arachnid's introduction episode in Transformers Prime, which I too definitely want you to cover for a podcast on.
Yes.
So he's advocating for TFP, and I know a lot of folks are. Man, buddy, aside from all this, man, we are going to have a real hard time figuring out where Two Mikes goes after this, because there's fan demand for Beast Machines, there's fans demand for TFP, and my buddy Ant from TFU.info, he's like, well, how can you do Beast Machines without doing Beast Wars? And I'm like, we're not doing Beast Wars. Listen to Autobot Decepticast for that. I really don't want to wade in. It's not that I don't want to watch Beast Wars, but I don't want to do a project like this on it, because I feel like so many people have already done it or are going to do it. I need to find something that's not that. That's why Beast Machines kind of appealed to me, because I feel like it's underappreciated. But like when I talk to folks like Michael Andrews or like Mike and the Earth Sparkles, when we talk to General Techno, apparently he's got a lot of affection for Beast Machines. So it's.
Well, and as I've said, there's a lot of synergy between the two shows. They both had the same showrunner. They had similar writers. They both have sort of this kind of hot and cold in the fandom a little bit.
Yeah,
definitely. So, I mean, there's definitely that would definitely be a good spiritual successor to the show we're currently doing.
Gotcha. And then maybe we could do TFP after that. I don't know. That's years in the future at this point.
Well, to acknowledge that reference, Matthew, that great pickup there. I think the only reason I didn't bring that up was because it'd be way too in the weeds for Mike to get that reference. But I'm sure Lita and we're both in our heads screaming like, "Oh yeah, this is Arachnid City."
Yeah, totally. He says it's darker. One of the Autobots has a dark past involving the Decepticon character Spiders! ! While they're both quite different in terms of stories, they do share those little similarities. Oh. And I, too, enjoy Danny Phantom. Since it was brought up, figured I'd comment on it, too.
Yes. Oh, man. Maybe we should do that show next. Maybe we should just dump ship and cover Danny Phantom from here on out. Put it on the list, Mikey. Put it on the list.
Sure. So coming in 2099, Two Mikes, Two Furious covers Danny Phantom.
Two Mikes do Danny. Maybe we'll work on the title.
we'll keep workshopping that. So Matthew also had a comment on part 2, and I thought this was pretty poignant. This was an awesome 2-parter, gentlemen! ! I don't know who's a gentleman, but I'm so glad that you pointed out the helmet. I never noticed that before! Which was a theme when Michael Andrews, you and I went through this like Halloween last year. So It's like, it's amazing how the helmet kind of gets overlooked.
And as I've said, I watch this episode every Halloween. I've serial rewatched the hell out of that episode in particular. And that was the first for me catching the helmet.
Well, and it was wild, and I talked about this at the time, not to relitigate, but like I fixated on it because I saw it first time through. Second time through, I missed it. It's like I didn't even notice it. I made such a big deal about noticing it the first time, completely missed it the second time. Crazy.
That's wild.
In defense of not returning to retrieve Alita's body, if she hadn't lived, would there be anything to retrieve? Between the fire and the pending explosion, her body could have been completely destroyed. I learned tonight that it was originally going to be Hot Rod as Sentinel's character and not Sentinel. I'm so glad they changed that. I love Hot Rod, so I wouldn't want to have to hate him like we kind of have to hate Sentinel, especially in this episode for blowing up on Optimus and not taking any responsibility. I don't have any attribution for that. I don't know if that's
baffling. Yeah, I'll have to go digging into the archives to see if I can find something like that. Or Matthew, if you're listening, and I hope you are, give us a little fact check on that one. I'd love to see where you got that.
Yeah, cite your sources. No, I say that lovingly. And Matthew closes out by saying, I too like things being different from quote unquote the source material. They're Transformers. Changing is literally in their name. If things were always the same from 1984 to now, it would get boring. Preach, brother.
Yes, thank you.
And TFA would have been a very different show. The Allspark didn't exist in G1, so it wouldn't have been here or the movies or in Prime. So I'm happy when things are different. Parentheses, sorry, Mike, and I'm not a millennial, so you can't blame it on me this time for that. which here. And it's, and I don't want to wade too deeply into controversy as we're getting ready to wrap up, but so we know now that Skybound Comics through Image has the license for the Transformers comics. And as of this recording, we have seen the reveals of all of the cast members, all of the Autobots, all of the Decepticons, and the character reveals are it's like they went to Bora Bora. I mean, Bora boring. I'm going to check out the book. I'm excited for Transformers fiction. I think that a lot of folks are already kind of coked up on unreasonable expectations. I think folks will be expecting kind of like IDW 3.0, and that's just not the case. I'm not super familiar with the works of Daniel Warren Johnson, who is kind of like the main creative force by this. He does a lot of like big time action wrestling style comics. So I think this is
interesting.
Yeah, and his stuff is really visually dynamic. And so I think we're going to see a lot of really cool robot fights and a lot of really cool robot action. I think it's going to be lean on characterization, just to stick my neck out for the fandom to come after me. Like, I'm excited for the book, but if people are expecting exciting new takes, I think they're going to be disappointed. If you're expecting TFA or something like that, or something on that level of like reinvention, I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's just going to be safe vanilla G1.
Ooh. Well, thanks for not stirring up any controversy at the end of the show, Mike. Really appreciate
exactly. And so that being said, let's wrap things up with everybody's favorite segment. It's the Michael Andrews preview haiku as I run to the other side of the room and fade down the lights. Oh, that's a little better. I'm getting a little bit. Yeah. I was kind of getting some eye strain here from these fluorescents that we're in. But yeah, it's like, we got to kind of bring the mood down and just kind of cool down as we just kind of ease into the cool cat club here.
Tapping the bongos. All right, here we go with preview haiku. Sari goes missing. An old island plays a part. Secrets come to light.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. I don't want to dive into these. I feel like we don't need to dissect my preview haikus, but there have been moments where I want to go back and be like, see, Mike, this was cool. I said this here and it actually paid off. Like Toy Story Gets Metal was my reference to the Sound and Fury episode.
That's right.
Spot on.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right, because we don't spend enough time revisiting that. Well, let's slot that in there somewhere, like maybe before the G1 score, or maybe just after the G1 score, before listener feedback. We're workshopping all this. I'm editing all this out, but
this is a living document.
It's a living document. Exactly. This audio podcast entertainment is a living document. Exactly. I love it. Okay, well, fine. Fuck it. I'll leave it all in. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. What do you mean to play us out? What do you mean to play us out? Oh man, and And that's it. We done did it. Make good choices and take care of yourselves and take care of each other and be good humans and all that other fun stuff. Thanks, some pizza. And thanks for hanging out with us. We always really like that. But yeah, what a fun, dynamic episode. It makes me want to go watch some anime now.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, maybe watch some My Chemical Alchemist or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
That's not a thing.
Oh my God, I love that though.
I'm leaving that in. My Chemical Alchemist. Jesus Christ. How do you get full medical? God damn it! I can't talk. I just gotta stop. Oh man, now I gotta figure out where to put that 4 seconds of fade in there because that bit of rummy banter was gold.
Yeah, that could be like even good just right after the music. Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good stuff. Well, my friends, we did it. Want to be a guest on the show? Send us an email, 2mikes2furious@gmail.com. Interact with us on social media. You can follow 2 Mikes 2 Furious on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 2 Mikes 2 Furious.
You are Mike. You are Mike. You are Mike. 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 So many Mike. So many Mike. So many Mike. So many Mike. Hey! Mike!
There's something primal in each of us.
Driving us to come together, united as one.
Calling all Autobots.
To find that last bit of courage.
And transform into something better.
There's a beast in all of us. Time to let it out.
The best Transformers yet has arrived on Paramount Plus.
This is gonna be fun, man.
Transformers, rated PG-13, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
You know what else was tons of fun though? In the time since we met last with our good friend La Lita, Step on Me, Spider Mommy, which best episode title ever, by the way.
Yeah.
But there's been a movie.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite robots in disguise have returned to the movies, and I think a bunch of us have seen it a bunch of times. So I thought before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the episode that's in the title of the episode that you're about to listen to, I thought let's take a couple minutes and talk about The Rise of the Beast, because Michael Andrews, you have a great affection for the live action movies, specifically the first run of them, the Michael Bay ones. And I think it would be accurate for me to say, through your affection for those movies, that I've really kind of softened my perspective a bit, because well, and for me, it's been in stages, right? So it's like, I like that first one just fine. And then it kind of goes from there. And I sour on the live action series very swiftly after that. In fact, as of this recording, I still have not watched The Last Night. I still have not seen that movie.
Wow.
Because for me, that was the one where I was like, you know what? I felt so burned by Age of Extinction. Because I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was a narrative going into that movie that, oh, this is going to be a soft reboot of sorts. You know, no more Shia LaBeouf. We're bringing Marky Mark. We're going in a air quotes different direction. It's kind of like a soft reboot or like a reset, maybe was the word.
Yeah.
And it's none of those things. And I felt so burnt by that when Last Night came around. That's kind of where I made my stand. I was just like, I'm not going. I've decided that I have a line and this is it. But that's not here or there, because like what I've learned in being part of this fandom for the last 5 years or so is that those movies are important in a lot of ways. One, the financial success. One, the reinvigoration of the pop culture. We don't get all of this G1 stuff. We don't get the G1 revival stuff without the financial success of the live action movies. Asked and answered. We've already litigated that, but the piece that I was still kind of missing, even once I landed on that perspective, it's like, okay, yeah. Moviegoers are dumb. You know, they'll just, especially in overseas markets, they'll just go see anything. So it was still kind of like a hard, crass, kind of ugly, cynical perspective on it. But then I run into folks like you and folks like some of our friends that genuinely love these movies. And I think that's where kind of my Grinch's heart started to melt a little bit and, you know, soften on stuff like character reuse or characters in name only and things like that. Yeah. And I think that has helped me appreciate things like Transformers Earthspark in a way that I might not have before. And it certainly primed the pump for me to be open and excited even for these drastic new takes on classic characters here in Transformers Animated. I think this project, especially this particular episode, is a great example of how I've come back around, because I think if I had watched this in February of 2008 when it first came out, I would have rejected it and I would have been angry about it. And I don't want to get too deep into my cold takes, but I like the episode quite a lot and I like the take quite a lot. And I think it's because of my interactions with folks like you and our friends that's like, you know what? I like these movies and it's okay that I like these movies. And I'm like, okay. So,
well, then I'm done. I've did my job. I think we can stop the podcast. I've done what I wanted to do with it.
So that being said, the beast done rose, and there are a variety of provocative takes, and I think they're all valid. I've said a lot about this movie. I did a non-spoiler review, like right as I walked out of the theater. We happened to see an advanced screening as part of our partnership with Sidefest Northwest. We were able to give away tickets, but we were invited to see the movie early, so I did a non-spoiler review. Then I did like a full spoiler review with the Sidefest organization team, and then later I joined the Transmissions guys on their full spoiler show. And so more or less, I've said a lot about this movie. I like it. I think it's fun. I don't know. It's like I think the word that I used is that I said it's like breezy and fun. It's approachable, and it's one of those movies that you could just watch. That's why I think so many of our friends have seen it so many times, because of its watchability.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of my thesis on it. I have a couple other things I could say as we go through, but I would, somebody that doesn't have a half dozen other podcasts that he hosts, Michael Andrews, I would like to cede the floor to you. I'm very curious, given all of that preamble about live action and beast characters and all that other stuff. Share with us some of your thoughts about The Rise of the Beast.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because I felt the same way about it that I felt about Bumblebee, which was I saw Bumblebee, I liked it very much initially, but it sort of felt like a Band-Aid or a cure for like, sorry about all those bad movies. Here's one for the true fans. And I don't know, it didn't speak to me that same way, right? Like I didn't need that. I liked the movies that came before. I didn't need an apology for those movies. But that being said, Bumblebee was very cool and fun, and you know, it was like this weird E.T. 80s movie. I still can't believe that movie exists. I still can't believe we got that movie. And Rise of the Beasts kind of felt the same way. Like, I love that it takes place in the 90s. I love the pop culture references that are spot on for that time period. I think you get a ton of bots, like you get a ton of bot action, you know, you get the on screen, you get the minimal human involvement. I think they're really starting to find that balance between, hey, it's really expensive to have Transformers on screen, but people also don't want to see humans for 2.5 hours or 2 hours of the 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool. But yeah, that being said, you know, I still think they're trying to give us sort of like something easy to chew, just a kind of a bubblegum pop movie with robots in it. They're getting closer to like making real characters, real human-like characters out of the Transformers with backstories and thoughts and opinions and that sort of thing. But it's still kind of like they're still sort of catchphrase engines, right? They just want to be out there to say something catchy and quippy and be funny for 2 seconds. It's I like it. I like the movie a lot. I don't want anyone to come away from this thinking, oh, he hates it, but because I thought it was very cool. I saw it twice. I was very pumped both times. Big hero moments, like big. It's definitely my favorite Optimus out of all the movies so far. I think this take on Optimus like really spoke to me and was just kind of a cool, little bit different version of Optimus. Gritty, kind of, we've seen Optimus sort of like make a mistake and have to kind of deal with the consequences of it, but he wasn't as mopey as I've seen Optimus be before. He was more pissed, right? He was a little bit angry at himself, but it drove him to action. That's what I need. I don't need inaction Optimus. I need action Optimus. And I think that's what we got in this movie.
That's a really good way of putting it, because like I had to see the movie twice before the Optimus characterization clicked with me, because first time through was like, oh, this is just IDW Optimus. Oh, this is just Netflix War for Cybertron Optimus, where it's like, it's angsty. He may as well be a Scarlet Spider from Across the Spider-Verse, that kind of thing, just dripped in 90s angst for like no reason. But when you see it a second time through, I had a better appreciation for the character arc, because it's the most character this character has ever had in these movies.
Yes.
And I think it's some of the finest acting that Peter Cullen has done in the role since 1986.
Oh, totally.
It's a full performance, I feel like, and I feel like it's got a nice character arc.
I was going to say, well, you get a lot more, for lack of a better word, long-winded kind of things that Optimus says in this movie, and subtle things and quiet things, instead of just I'll kill you, transform, like this is actually an Optimus that has a reason to be down on himself and isn't in love with himself like some of the other versions of Optimus in the live action films. And just seeing that and sort of digging into that a little bit and his past, and you get some, you get more Cybertron world building, which I love. We haven't really got a lot of that. We just know their planet's destroyed, right? We had like 5 or 6 movies and we just know their planet's destroyed and it's behind them and in the past. But this was getting into like how they feel about it and why and what happened and the mythology of it. I just think a lot of that stuff is getting closer to the Transformers I want in a live action movie.
This is a step in the right direction, but I think the movie's biggest strength is in its approachability.
Absolutely.
I would say, though, I do have a couple of criticisms. One, I feel like its treatment of the Beast characters reminds me of my criticism of the early Michael Bay movies where hey, these are just robots.
Yeah.
Not a lot of characterization, not a lot of dialogue. Both other Beast characters do speak. Rhinox has one line. I think Cheetor has one line, maybe 2. But still, it's like they kind of fade to the background like any other given live action character that we feel like wasn't really given their proper service. So that felt like sensibility wise, like it was sliding back that direction.
Yeah.
And depending upon your mileage is either a criticism or an observation. But the reason why I wanted to talk to you specifically, Michael Andrews, because like there's been a take that I keep forgetting to bring up in all of these different podcasts that I've been on, and you nailed it when you talked about it on Twitter, but you talked about the thing that's missing. And the thing that's missing is the sense of scope and scale and awe with regards to the robot characters. Like, and I didn't notice it at first. And it was one of those things that I had to think about it. And then once I saw your tweet, it crystallized. So like, I mean, a iconic moment that I think in just Transformers history across all franchises is when we see Optimus and the other Autobots that first time reveal themselves to Sam and Michaela in 2007. Like the music is swelling and it's like, the truck stops, it holds on the Autobot logo, and then it gets into the unfolding. You get all the sound effects, you get the music, and through their acting, even though Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox are just staring at tennis balls on a green screen, they still convey that sense of awe of like, holy shit, that truck just turned into a robot right in front of me. And so it's two things. One, in Rise of the Beast, when you see Optimus transform, it's not even on screen. He's like walking between two trucks. Like you see his feet and legs, and like you see a truck, and then you see it felt very Netflix to me. I'll be honest with you. It felt very where we're just hiding transformations. Now, I would also say that that's probably allocation of budget throughout the entirety of the movie, because you get some top tier transformations. So I could see that, but like it feels cheap the first time you meet your hero character. It's at night and it's obscured, and it just, when we go from 2007 to 2023 now, I think it's also fair to say that you don't necessarily need that in every movie, but I think you need it in this one. Yeah. I don't know. It just felt like it was missing. And another thing that was missing as well, like the Noah character doesn't really seem to be all that. He seems very nonplussed about being in a warehouse full of giant alien robots. You get a great bit of comedy where, he's got the pipe and all of that stuff, which I think is great. I think it's a great gag. I think it's a terrific bit, but you trade that for that same sense of wonderment that Sam and Michaela saw. And
totally. I think too, I've been trying to look at this through two lenses. One of my takeaways right away was the plot seemed too simplistic. The puzzles and stuff were too easy to solve. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't get a lot of like, oh my gosh, they're robots. It's more comedy, jokey. But then I look through it the lens of like a younger audience, kids going to this movie, and I think, oh, they actually did a really hard thing, which was find a medium between a child audience and an adult audience. And that, this probably really resonates with kids going to see this movie. It has enough stuff for the adults, and maybe we're just like a little bored because like we get it. We know, we've seen Indiana Jones. We kind of know what's going to happen here, but it relates to kids, and I think that they can think that's funny, and they sort of have that like, it's that Disney Channel thing, right? Like you got to make a joke. You don't really go into it being actually odd and afraid and scared. It's like, whoa, robot, and then you do a goofy voice, right? Like, and then it's done, and then you move on. So looking through it that lens, I was like, okay, I get it. I get why they did it. Maybe it's not for me, but it is tough to make a property like Transformers for the entire spectrum of fandom.
Yeah, which is what I appreciate about it is, again, like, the basic simplicity of the storyline is both a compliment and a criticism. Yeah. Because like I was very complimentary of it. It's like, cool, straightforward, easy to follow. You can tell who is who, that kind of thing. Like it felt very streamlined and delightfully uncomplicated.
Yes, absolutely. And like I was saying before, big hero moments. I don't think I've got that in the Transformers movies, live action movies prior. There's just big, like my heart swelled when, there's like a pose and they paused on Bumblebee and they paused on, Optimus. I was like, oh man, like I got excited. I felt that like youthful excitement that I haven't felt in a long time. So for those just couple of moments alone, 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it's a good, fun movie. I like it quite a lot, and I'll gladly watch it again. So that being said, like, obviously we're a Transformers animated podcast. So in going through references, there's references to all kinds of different continuities and all kinds of obscure characters. For my eye, since I have not watched TFA in its entirety, I think really the only kind of and even then it's a stretch because I want it to be. Really, the only TFA sensibility I picked up was the axe. And because Optimus Prime's axe looks very much like his fireman's axe in Transformers Animated here. So it's like, so I was like the one guy at the end of the movie where Optimus has to like save himself. He takes the axe and he's like, jams it into the ground. He's being dragged across. And I'm like, yes, call the axe, call the axe.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
And I like that we got so much axe play out of it. And Bumblebee gets to wield the axe for a hot minute there too. And he does a version of the thing we talked about a handful of episodes ago, where like if the thruster on the back of it in TFA is almost an anime trope, and Bumblebee almost takes like an anime-esque swing with it. So that kind of that really kind of gave me a little bit of the tingles there. But outside of that, I don't know if I necessarily clocked anything that screams TFA to me, but I defer to the serial rewatcher. Did anything kind of cross your radar?
No, not really. I guess if I had to give it a TFA score, like how we give this a G1 score, I mean, it's low, right? It's like a 2.75 or something. That axe is kind of carrying most of the weight.
Yes.
I will say the look of Cheetor in that movie does kind of track with something in Transformers Animated, but because we're not there yet, I can't talk too much more about it. But I did bump up the score a little bit for Cheetor in that movie too.
Excellent. Very good.
We'll get there. Someday you can know. Someday we'll let you in on it.
Yeah. We didn't even really touch on Mirage, and one of the underutilized takes, or kind of like under. I think Mirage has a lot of hot rod in him, and I like that characterization.
Oh,
yeah. Not enough people are saying that, I think. Somebody recently on Twitter did a digibash where it's basically Mirage in hot rod colors with a spoiler on the back, and it's like, I fixed it. It's hot rod.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Let them come.